Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special meeting of the Cuyahoga County Council on Monday, August 29, 2011, at the council chambers. We welcome all of you who are watching on live stream. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam President. Calling the roll, Mr. Greenspan. Here. Mr. Miller. Present. Mr. Brady. Present. Mr. Germana. Here. Mr. Gallagher. Here. Mr. Schron. Let the record reflect that Mr. Schron is absent. Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Here. Ms. Connolly. Here. We have a quorum.
I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Schron's absence be an excused absence.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Mr. Schron's absence is marked as excused. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For a moment of silent meditation this afternoon, I'd like to reflect on the victims of Hurricane Irene and the damage that was done to our nation, and also for all of those brave persons, firefighters and police, EMS, who have done such a vigilant job in caring for the injured during this very serious situation. All right, has anyone signed in for public comment related to the agenda?
No, Madam President, no one has signed in to speak.
All right, in your packet, they have the minutes of the last meeting of August 23rd. Has everyone had an opportunity to read those minutes, and is there a motion to approve?
Second.
It's moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Brady. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Is there a message from our county executive? Okay.
Madam Chair.
All right, do we need him for item 0044?
Yes, for the swearing in, yes.
Okay, so we should go ahead without, skip to item 9.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Item 9, consideration of resolutions for first reading under suspensions of the rules, item 9D and 12A. And this is because this is a special meeting and the rules require ordinarily that these matters be done at a regular meeting. So this is a special meeting. So, Ms. Simon?
Madam President, I moved that these rules be suspended.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Gallagher for suspension of the rule. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Item 0268.
Resolution number 2011-0268, a resolution fixing sewer maintenance and/or sewage treatment rates for county sewer districts numbers 1, 1A, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 13, 14, 20, 21, 22, and 24, and for the city of Pepper Pike in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 6117, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Madam President, these items still belong in committee.
We had them on for passage under the adoption of the rules. So did they not come out of committee?
According to the executive, these are emergency items that need to be on for first reading suspension.
All right, do we have someone here from Public Works to give us an explanation? Because these were brought to us as an emergency items that need to be passed this evening, or this afternoon.
I can very briefly address it, Madam President and Councilman Jones. What happens is the Ohio Revised Code has a provision that these happen annually, and the deadline to have them done is September 12th. And so The department had thought that it could be done through the Board of Control, and they put them in for approval through the Board of Control. It came through the Law Department, and we said, no, this is council, requires council action, not the Board of Control, which prompted them coming to council for immediate passage. But by the revised code, the deadline to have them pass is September 12th, and the issue that we had is council doesn't meet again until September 30th, so we pushed them out of. 13th, exactly. So we would meet a day after the deadline for when these have to be passed. But they are, my understanding is they are routine and happen every year. This is, this is just the normal course that they happen every year, setting the rates. I don't know in terms of the specifics if they changed any of the rates on them, if the department did that or not.
If they're an emergency, they're an emergency, but is there anyone to at least speak to the matter?
Madam President, I'm sorry, colleague, I think we need to move to adopt or something, because this is
Motion first. I thought you were making a motion.
to adopt.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Ms. Simon and seconded by Mr. Greenspan. All right, now we're open for discussion. Is Ms. Tiwan here to explain the dynamics of this, or is anyone here from the administration?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
David Merriman is going to speak on
Okay.
this agenda item.
I think the mic, try your microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, David Merriman, County Executive's Office. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding the allocation or any part of the program.
Mr. Jones had a question.
Well, just ultimately, the sense of the emergency, and just tell us what makes it an emergency.
Sure. So the program is set to move forward, and clearly we need council to allocate the funds before we can begin the process of ordering materials. Or I'm sorry, am I on the right issue? Excuse me. Let me pull the file.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Jamel, let's see if we can get one question at a time.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say that each one of these cities have agreed with the Public Works Department on the allocation of the special assessment. They're assessing their residents based on square footage, so much for sewer, so much for storm, so much for water. So as I was reviewing this, being familiar with what we had done in Parma, I see that these rates are exactly what has been approved by the city council. So this is just setting the rates for the next year, and the Public Works Department then, based on that revenue coming in for manpower and equipment and ordering things, they just need to have this in order.
But my question is, if you knew this had to be done before the 12th of September, and we've been meeting all the time, why wasn't this brought in like, our last meeting, August 23rd? Or before, so that it can be referred to a committee and we got more explanation? Is that your question, Mr. Jones?
That is my question.
Madam Chair, let me start by saying I apologize. My initial answer, I was not clear on what point we were in the agenda. From my conversations with the department, they were operating under the impression that this would be an item that could be resolved at the Board of Control. They felt this was an administrative decision, that this wouldn't need to go all the way to council. When we do our process to look at an item and to assess whether or not an item needs to move on to full council or to the Board of Control, we stopped it at that point and said, no, this has to go all the way to council. This needs to be something that we have the legislature behind. This is an ORC requirement.
Madam Chairperson.
Yes, Mr.
I certainly appreciate the dilemma you find yourself in, considering what you've just said. Could you tell us, though, if we did not pass this legislation this evening, and we routed it back through committee and the regular process, what would be the consequences?
The problem Madam President and Councilman Brady, is the Ohio Revised Code is silent on it. It says that it must be done by September 12th, but it doesn't say what happens if it doesn't happen. So we're open to potential challenges to these. I mean, there is an open question as to what can happen to it. So that's why we would urge that council does act tonight and does pass it under suspension of the rules, because
Yes, Mr. Brady.
With all due respect, am wondering why, given the situation that we find ourselves in, that we don't have the appropriate, you guys are great, but why we don't have the appropriate people here to discuss this because we are in a situation that's kind of between a hard place and a rock here.
Madam
Well, I
Chair,
just
to-
want to follow up with Mr. Brady's saying is that we weren't even supposed to have a meeting today. This is a special meeting, and we did it the only thing we were supposed to have on the agenda today was Mr. Sensenbrenner, so that he could get to work. And and so all of a sudden we get these other items. So what if, but for Mr. Sensenbrenner, we wouldn't even have a meeting today?
Madam Chair. to
Yes.
the council.
So would you have called us in the special session, or?
Just got word that the Public Works Director, Bonnie Tenway, is on her way. She's about 5 minutes away. She's in some traffic construction, no pun intended, but she is 7 minutes away, and she will be able to speak to this item.
Well, she may be able to speak to it, but I mean, still, what's this procedural? I mean, what if we had not had the special meeting today? She would know the consequences, is that what you're saying?
I think she'll be prepared to respond to your question when she
It's good that she's on her way. I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's a good thing.
Is there anything else we can do until,
Well, Madam Chair,
yes?
I think if we didn't have the special meeting, once the administration found out that this needed to be passed, there would have been a request to have a special meeting before September 12th. Many of these small cities depend on the sanitary engineer for their sewer maintenance, and they also have a number of projects that are ongoing. So it's pretty important for us to go ahead and pass this, or we would be actually affecting the sewer departments of many of these cities.
And Madam Chair, if I may, you know, the item by item review that we do of all of these items is important. It's a timely practice that I engage with the director of the Office of Procurement and Diversity and the law director, where we look at the items, and we do I think our due diligence questioning. Okay, where are we clear where this needs to go? And I think on this issue, you know, I certainly wish we had noted it earlier and had gotten it to an earlier meeting. I mean, that's clear. But, you know, at the same time, I think there was the perspective that this can get approved at the Board of Control, which has council involvement. And, you know, and we assessed, and rightly so, that was incorrect.
All right, well, since we have some dead time here.
Okay.
This past Wednesday, Councilman Gallagher and I were out at the county fairgrounds where they broke ground for the new wind turbine. And it was a very impressive process. And they made cookies that looked like the wind turbine. And I was in keeping with making all of my fellow council persons apprised of what's going on. I brought everyone a cookie from the wind turbine. And we have information about the project, and the new building is going to go out, the classroom building in connection will be on our website. And we hope everyone will take a look at that and enjoy your cookies.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Since we do have a little bit of dead time, so to speak, how about if we go back to the message from the executive, since he's here, and
Yeah.
then we could do Mr. Sensenbrenner's confirmation.
Thank you. Spoken like a true president. So we want to go back to item 8, message from the county executive, 7, I'm sorry. And we can also then do Mr. Sensenbrenner.
Good evening, good afternoon.
And I forgot to bring you a cookie, so.
That's okay. You know, I guess I could make, if you'd like, if we're still waiting, or do you want to go to the other agenda items?
We could do Mr.
Or-
Stensenbrenner, that would be appropriate.
Let me just make a comment about Mr. Sensenbrenner, and then when we get
Okay.
to the, I just was handed some new information regarding this voting situation, so I'm a little distracted because we just got a letter from the auditor's, state auditor's office that I will share with you when we get to that, which the council may have as well. I don't know if that's been shared with you, but I just received it. We were actually in a mediation earlier today. We had what I think is going to be the last of our mediation sessions between the sewer district and suburban mayors. So at another time, I could report to you where I think that's going. Unfortunately, I think that is, although we were able to make a lot of progress, I thought, and had some important concessions from both sides, they were not able to reach a conclusion of the matter. And my guess is that they are headed to trial, which is going to be on October the 31st. But at this point, Dean Mearns and Nora Hurley from my staff, who have been conducting this negotiation, have probably taken the parties as far as they can go, and they really, especially Dean Mearns, because he was working for free, he really put a lot of time into this, and he did a superb job. There had never been any substantive, in my opinion, settlement discussions of this very complex and expensive litigation, and both sides at least put their proposals on the table, and there were some concessions that were made. Unfortunately, it fell short. And that we're able to give you a more detailed explanation about it at some point if you'd like. Regarding Mr. Sensenbrenner's, if you're gonna deal with that next, I just wanted to thank the council for your review of his nomination. I hope his confirmation hearing established for your satisfaction what we saw in him as a nominee. He's a consummate professional. He has an extraordinary depth of experience. He's committed to public service, and I hope you will favorably consider his nomination this evening. Thank you.
All right, let's go back then to item 8 on the agenda, committee report and consideration of a motion of council for first reading, adoption and suspension of Rule 9D. Ms. Steinman?
Madam President, thank you. I move we suspend the rules.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Simon and seconded by Mr. Gallagher to suspend the rules. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Item 0044.
Motion number 2011-0044, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Richard W. Sensenbrenner upon his taking the oath of office as the treasurer of Cuyahoga County and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective.
I moved by is that Mr. Jones? And Roger, sorry. And seconded by Ms. Simon. All right, any discussion on the matter? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Sensenbrenner, you are hereby confirmed. If you'd like to come forward. And would you like to introduce those who are with you? Sure. Okay. Come up to the podium. Well, why don't you introduce your family, or looks like some common DNA there.
Madam President and members of council, first of all, thank you very much for your confirmation. I'm certainly looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting busy. Tonight, my wife Janet is here, and of course I'd like to thank Janet for all her many years of love and support. And of course my in-laws are here, Eugene Nagy and Beverly Nagy from Richmond Heights. And so it's great to have them there. My parents are currently in Denver, Colorado at my sister's house, so they didn't want to fly all the way in for this, but I think I'll get an apple pie or something when they get back in town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, congratulations, and we want you to work like first thing tomorrow morning, right? Okay, going back to item 9A. Ms. Tiwan is here. All right. We have questions regarding item 0268.
Madam President, Bonnie Tiwan, Public Works. I apologize for being late. I lost track of time. It was 4:08, and I was down on West 25th Street, still in the office, working hard. These two resolutions that you have in front of you, 268 and 269, are something that you're going to see on an annual basis. As you know, the County Sanitary Division does maintenance work for a lot of our local communities, approximately 32 communities that they do some type of maintenance service for. How we are paid for those services are on a lineal footage frontage rate for the property owners within that community that we provide the service. These are rates that are presented on an annual basis. The majority of these rates are the same rates. Actually, all of these are the same rates that the communities have been paying over the past couple of years. The only difference that you have are in Parma Heights. We're adjusting some of the sanitary sewer dollars to the, we're taking money from the water rates and putting it into the storm sewer rate. And then in Parma, we're taking money from the sanitary and putting it into the storm. But the actual aggregate is the same for both of those communities. So what we're presenting to you is the first resolution, which is fixing the rates, are to make those adjustments to those two communities. And then the second resolution is to pass that so we can continue to charge those rates like we have been over the last couple of years. And I'm sorry, I'm out of breath, I was running.
Any other questions?
And Madam President, I am satisfied. I see the routineness of the matter. I was concerned that I had not seen it before and did not see any representation here to tell us about it. But I understand I run a little late myself. So we're
you.
all right.
I got yelled at twice for running in the hallways.
Okay.
Questions or discussion?
I have one. What's the justification for using the front footage of a property as opposed to the square footage of the property or the?
We patterned this because it is for storm sewer, and we patterned this after if a property owner would be assessed for a project, and back in the days when this was originally created, we felt that that was the best measurement as far as footage goes for getting a fair cost to the property owners. And you can see there's some factors adjust depending on the type of property it is. Somewhere in here. There's some adjustments based on if it's condos or apartments or commercial or industrial. We make some adjustments to the unit cost.
Any other questions or debate, discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Item 0269.
Resolution number 2011-0269, a resolution approving and confirming the 2012 sewer maintenance and/or sewage treatment assessments for County Sewer District numbers 1, 1A, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 13, 14, 20, 21, 22, and 24, and for the City of Pepper Pike, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 6117, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Moved by Mr. Jamanin, seconded by Ms. Simon. Is there any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item 0270.
Resolution number 2011-0270, a resolution determining and declaring that the county's engagement in the effort to maximize voter participation and voting by mail is a public purpose, and authorizing the county executive to undertake all acts necessary to engage the county in the effort to maximize voter participation and voting by mail, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Who moved? Mr. Rogers?
Second.
By Mr. Rogers and seconded by Ms. Simon. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much, Madam President. A few things about this item, and then I'm going to make a request. It has been quite an education about the way voting, unfortunately, has become, and the right to vote has become, for some reason, too much of a political football or a partisan issue in this state, and that has been evident in some actions that have been taken by state officials regarding this matter, from beginning to middle, not quite end yet, but beginning till just earlier today. So just to recap quickly, the vote by mail program was adopted in this county and 5 counties across Ohio for a reason. It was adopted because the existing system wasn't working, especially in urban counties like Franklin County, Hamilton County, and particularly Cuyahoga County. And it was evident it wasn't working from the situation that we went through in this county in the 2004 presidential campaign, where we made national news because of a chaotic situation at the polls where people were actually losing their right to vote because they were waiting 3 and 4 hours in line. And it was on every national news channel about how it wasn't working in the state of Ohio and in Cuyahoga County in particular. There was a public policy response to that, and it was not a partisan response. It was supported by Democrats and Republicans alike, and it was voted on unanimously at the time by our Board of Elections, the 4 members of which are divided evenly between Democrats and Republicans. It really started being implemented well, first of all, the law changed so that there no longer needed to be a specific medical reason to vote by mail, which you used to have to check off on a form that you were either over a certain age or you were confined because of a medical condition. And
Or out of the jurisdiction.
That's right, and those rules were changed. Then the Board of Elections took the further step of actually providing to each registered voter by mail an absentee ballot or vote by mail application. And that really started being implemented in 2008, and it worked. And we did not, even though we had huge voter turnout in this county in the 2008 presidential elections, it was an orderly and it was a fair election. 2009, we had municipal elections, the same system, no complaints, no accusations of voter fraud in this county, no accusations that it was a partisan ploy by one party to the other party, unanimously supported both by the county government at the time and also the Board of Elections. No controversy whatsoever. 2010, same thing. Board of Elections voting unanimously, Republicans and Democrats. No problem with funding it whatsoever. Again, it was working seamlessly across the state. 2011, for some reason, something has changed. Earlier this year, the state legislature passed House Bill 194, and even though there is an effort to repeal that law, which has stayed its implementation, the Secretary of State has made decrees which are enforcing the, I guess what he would call the spirit of 194, even though 194 is not operative law, which is a unique position for him to take, but that is what he has done. Boards of election are in a particular relationship with the Secretary of State where he can order boards of elections to take certain actions. And board members of boards of elections have to interpret that and how much they have to abide by his directives and how much independence that they have. So what's happened now in these last few weeks is not just Cuyahoga County, but also Hamilton County has had split votes. So this on the implementation of voting by mail. So now it has been 2-2, and for some reason between Democrats and Republicans, where Democrats are saying we want to continue this program, and Republican members of boards of election are saying that they don't want to continue with it, or they don't believe that they can, I should say, under the existing orders from the Secretary of State. I think they do that sometimes reluctantly because they had personal experience that it was working. And that's why I think you saw Jeff Hastings, who's a senior Republican on our local Board of Elections, say that he applauded us for taking an initiative to still try to provide this option for people. Almost 47% of votes that were cast in approximately 47% of votes that were cast in 2010 when we were all elected were cast by mail. And some of the areas of the county that particularly availed themselves of that opportunity didn't happen to be Democratic areas, by the way. Some of them were some of the most Republican parts of the county. So the implementation of this has not been partisan. Unfortunately, after we took the initiative to say, well, if the Board of Elections cannot do this, it doesn't prevent other entities or other parts of entities from carrying out this public purpose. By the way, I would also mention that campaigns have done this in a partisan fashion across the state in different ways for a number of years. As a matter of fact, the rights to vote in this fashion and the rights to have these applications processed in a fair manner were actually something that was advocated by the McCain campaign in 2008 because they were mailing out absentee voter applications to selected voters. What we're trying to do in this county is send them out regardless of partisan affiliation to everybody, no matter who we think that we might vote for. After we had made our public announcement that we were going to have this resolution that is before you today, the Secretary of State, John Husted, on Friday, and some of you may have read the media coverage about this today, but I want to reiterate some of the things that happened with that. First of all, he made a statement saying that he's looking at any of his legal options to stop us from doing what we're doing. And he gave as one of the stated purposes for that counties were in such dire financial straits that this expenditure could not be justified. And he gave as a specific example, and this wasn't widely reported in the media, but one of the alleged reasons for this is that there are food banks in this state that were running out of food. So we should not be spending money on an election when our food banks are running low on food. So you heard it probably in this state first. The position of the Secretary of State is literally that people need to make a choice between whether or not we're going to feed the hungry or provide absentee ballots. This is absurd. It is an absolute absurdity. He went on from saying that to being asked by the reporter if there were any legal options. He said, "Yeah, we have a number of legal options that we could do to stop this." By the way, the headline of the article, this is on WKSU, that deserves a credit for running this story. The headline of the article is actually Secretary of State looking for ways to stop Cuyahoga County absentee voting. It's literally the headline to the story. So they ask him, well, what are your other options? He said, well, we have a number of legal options. One of the options that we have is to declare those ballots as being, or those absentee ballot applications as being invalid, and that the Board of Elections could not process those applications. Now we're getting into a whole nother category, because it's one thing if state officials want to disagree with us or try to figure out legal ways or legal maneuverings to try to stop us from mailing out these voter applications. It's another thing if they're saying that even when the individual citizen has their application, that they're going to deny that person the right to have that application acted on in a timely manner. Because now you're going from critiquing what we do to once that application is in the voter's hand, it's the voter's right. And once they return it to the Board of Elections, they have a fundamental American right to have it processed and then counted. So we're moving into a whole different category. As I found out about these comments late on Friday night, and we immediately started making preparations to see how we should respond to that. So Mr. Majid and our legal team here has been, they've been burning the midnight oil to look at where do we stand with these things legally. There's another legal issue at work here, by the way. Just the statement by the state's chief election official that these votes may not be processed, or these applications to vote may not be processed, has a chilling effect. People are asking if they can vote by absentee now. And so, and by the way, this is not a tactic which is new. To try to make things difficult or to try to give people the idea that maybe their votes won't be counted is something that's been tried before in American history successfully, because it makes people cynical about the system and they think, well, maybe I wasn't going to vote anyway and maybe it won't even be counted anyway. And that's not just a theory or a political statement. That is something that the U.S. Supreme Court has talked about. They've talked about the fact that creating confusion around the conditions of voting is something to be avoided because it has a chilling effect on the democratic process. And that's what's happening here in this whole process. So we got our legal research together, and first of all, we don't think there's any way that those ballots or those applications can be discarded in any way. So we made a very strong statement, and we asked Mr. Husted to withdraw those comments. I think he has. We also referred his comments to our congressional delegation, Senator Brown, Senator Portman, and our local U.S. representatives. And I know that our local state legislators are also aware of them. And I know that it is the intention of at least some of those elected officials to have the Justice Department look at whether or not federal voting rights have now been imperiled because of these actions by the chief election officer. Now, his official response has been that our allegations, he calls them, are laughable. Mm-hmm. What we stated was what he stated. We just said he has stated that he is looking at whether or not these applications can just be basically thrown in the garbage by order of him to our local Board of Elections. And he stated that was one of the options they were looking at. And all we were saying was, if you're saying that's an option, we're asking you to walk back from that statement. And I think that he has, because he has said subsequently, besides dismissing our concerns, that yes, of course, every absentee ballot application that's lawful is going to be counted. Although he hasn't defined what he means by that, because we're not sure if he has some creative definition of what is a lawful or legal absentee ballot application. Now, the absentee ballot application that we are contemplating sending out is not any different than the absentee ballot application that you can get online or go in person or ask the Board of Elections to mail to you. It's the exact same form. So we're not sure what he means by that, but I think that we have to just make doubly sure that that there's no question about that whatsoever. But it hasn't stopped there, unfortunately, because earlier today we got a letter from the Auditor of State which basically, David Yost, which basically rehashes the arguments of the Secretary of State that he made against this, for some reason, controversial plan to give people ballot applications. And just kind of reiterating that it is the role of the Auditor of State to ensure that when money is spent, that it is spent for a proper public purpose. I cannot think of a purpose that is more properly in the public's interest than providing for an efficient and convenient way to cast your franchise. It might be the fundamental public service and the fundamental public interest. So I think that we will meet that challenge, but he has sent us a lengthy letter that is the kind of corollary to what the Secretary of State's office did, which is to, I think, attempt to put some pressure on us to not spend funds for this purpose, and stating that if he finds that it is not a public purpose, that we would be issued some type of audit finding. Now, the unusual thing about this is that the funds that would be spent on this vote by mail process have basically already been appropriated. I mean, we have a resolution on the ballot today, or on the agenda today, but this is something that has already been found to be an appropriate public purpose to spend money on these things year after year after year. Why it would not be an appropriate public purpose because the county is doing it as opposed to the Board of Elections is not clear. But I don't think that this is the end of this, and I think that, as Mr. Husted said in his comments to the reporter on Friday, I think they have a number of things that they're going to continue to try to do to try to stop this program from going forward. And I don't think that this is the end of it. I think you probably think about any relevant state agency that you can think about, I think has probably gotten marching orders to say, come up with a theory for why you can tell Cuyahoga County that they can't do this. I fully anticipate that someone, somewhere, either directly employed by the state of Ohio or acting on behalf of the state of Ohio or at the direction of public officials, statewide public officials, is going to file some type of temporary restraining order or injunction in this matter, and I expect that as a pretty good likelihood as well. What I would like to, I know I was a little lengthy, but this is something of great public concern, and I wanted to give a history to it. I also wanted to express to the council that I'm not hesitating one iota in my determination to follow through with this, and I hope the council doesn't either in the face of the pressure that's coming from the state, because it's the right thing to do, and it's the right thing to do for our constituents. I would ask if we could have a 10-minute recess, only because I have been involved in these sewer department mediations all afternoon. I just saw moments ago Auditor Yost's letter. I haven't had an opportunity to speak to my law director about that. I haven't had an opportunity to speak to my fiscal officer about that. They're just reviewing it. Actually, I think they've had more time than I have, but I'd like to have the opportunity to consult with them for a bit, and then if we could perhaps reconvene, I would appreciate that opportunity.
All right, we'll take a recess until, what about 5 o'clock?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam
15
President.
minutes, all right.
That's not a good